Hey guys, welcome back. BDCKR here. We're back with a revamp of our Luchador Bane one-hit KO team that we've teased in recent Q&A videos and that we're going to do a breakdown of today in lieu of our regular Q&A videos because my partner Crime is working on a big non-YouTube project and isn't available for our usual chit-chat this week. So a slight revamp from our previous Luchador Bane teams, which we'll link in the description. Previously, we tried Red Lantern Hal Jordan with Luchador Bane as a special 2 specialist, not for the splash, and we were using Hal Jordan as our Claw of Horus gear breaker, and another version where we had the same team members as we have now, but a different loadout. And this is a different approach to the Cloak of Necron team, as I like to call it, where we're using Cloak of Destiny and Necron Scythe, both for the boosted damage on stun. So Luchador Bane is back as a special 1 specialist instead of a special 2 specialist. And in general, if we're talking special 1 versus special 2, I mean, you can have a special specialist that are either, but special 1 does less damage. There's less chance of knocking the opponent out, but there's more potential splash damage because League of Assassins Knives gives you 50% compared to something like Fourth World Godly Mace, which only gives you 15%, even though it's more damage. It's a smaller percentage of it is given as splash when you're looking at special 2. So you've also got a better one-hit KO potential if special 1 is 1 hit, like Luchador Bane versus, say, the first hit of a multi-hit special 2. Tantu Totem is obviously required. Now, in the case of Luchador Bane, it can't be Master's Death Cart because Master's Death Cart will remove any tag in stun, which Luchador Bane needs. And because Luchador Bane is our main damage dealer, you want power back on him if he knocks out the opponent. So, Tantu Totem's on Bane. League of Assassins Knives to boost special 1 damage and for splash damage, and Cloak of Destiny to boost stun damage. And for Luchador Bane, it's better than Necron Scythe because of the additional tag and stun chance plus the additional boosted crit damage, so you're really making him a heavy hitter. Batgirl Prime we have because she gives Bane an extra bar of power. Now, the original intent of using Necron Scythe is for boosted stun damage, which still holds. Now, it's not as big of a loss when we don't have the stun chance on our gear compared to Cloak as it would be with Bane, since Batgirl doesn't require tag and stun like Bane does. She makes her own stun on special 1. Bane, he can only stun on tag in. However, we are taking advantage of the 1 revive on Necron Scythe after 1 knockout as a potential meat shield to speed up fights against Killing Joke Joker if he's in first slot, because a lot of times you might be tempted to kill some time, and this way you just knock him out. She's got a revive. She can eat a super. She's also got Master's Death Cart for new bar power every time we tag in, and League of Assassins Knives would have been great on her, but better on Luchador Bane, mainly because he has a built-in boosted damage on tag-in as part of his passive, and only one of them can have it as the main damage dealer. And so I should mention, the first 3 fights were pretty standard. What you've seen is Bane comes in, he crits, he stuns, and then either he can finish off the second person, or if he's done enough splash damage, Batgirl can tag in. The tag-in knocks out number 2, and the beginning of her special 1, whether it's blocked or not, knocks out number 3. So the variation we've got in this fight is our opponent has a revive. So, boom, he's got a resurrection, and boom, second special 1, and then you've got the quick finish with Batgirl. Okay, so the Batgirl variation is we've got Claw of Horus on her. We could boost damage on Batgirl, hoping to have a second 1-hit knockout weapon, but you have to. Oh, this is going to be interesting because Batman Ninja Batman is going to have reduced damage, so it'll make it a little bit more interesting. But it's not that hard because we're going to take care of him quickly, and it'll knock out one of the weapons that Batman Ninja Catwoman has, which is a revive. So he's going to be out real quick. So we could have boosted damage on Batgirl. All right, let's see this fight. So we're going to tag in, still stuns, crit, and only 87k. Okay, not enough to knock him out, but Batgirl comes up as our backup, and she's going to finish the job. There we go. Oh, even better. the other revive for Batman Ninja Catwoman gets knocked out too, so Catwoman is really not much of a danger to us at all. Okay. So there's a risk of losing Luchador Bane, and then you would, which is pretty low though, and then you'd want Batgirl to be doing more damage. But there's the benefit of having a different tool, which is stripping all gears, because sometimes the gears can make the opponent more dangerous or just more hardy and harder to kill. So the beauty of it is the second time Batgirl tags in, basically any time after the first tag in, the pitter-patter hits of Master's Death Cart when she tags in can be used for the Claw of Horus, and you get the gear shatter effect for every one of the hits, and you can shatter all the gears, all 3 of the gears of the opponent if you hit the special quickly enough on tag in. Hawkgirl Prime is there for her passive of quicker tag-ins. It protects your team in case of the fight doesn't go the way you plan or expect. So here's an example of the fight not going the way you expect. So we've stunned. We're going to do a hit. It's crit, but it's still not enough. We've triggered her passive. It did 198k. So we'll do again, and we need to get out of the way. So we're going to use Batgirl. She might do enough damage given how much health Raven has. Probably not. Maybe this will be enough. 37 only, so it did not crit, and so we were SOL. Now, we just given another life to Batgirl, which we probably don't need, but just for safety's sake, we bring in Hawkgirl to eat Raven's special 1 to use up her power, only because Hawkgirl's the only, well, not the only, but the one with the least amount of power, and just to play it safe, because Bane has so little health, we're using a special 2 and special 1, mainly because we don't want to give Arkham Croc a chance to use his power, because there's only so much splash damage you can take anyways. Okay, so let's talk about the ideal fight. And the first few fights we saw example, right? Luchador Bane tags in and stuns, although the stun is less than 100% chance, so most of the time it'll happen. Special 1 does critical damage, but that's only 80% chance, right? 50% on his augmentations and 30% on Tantu. And the opponents on the bench come in with 1 health each. Either you do another special 1. You prefer that if second opponent comes in with more than just a little bit of health. But the fastest is when you can tag in Batgirl for her automatic knockout with Master's Death Card, then a quick second knockout with her special 1 that happens even before any minigame. It's just that first little bit. And this one's not particularly interesting. It's her standard fight. So there's a few important points I think it's worth mentioning. So if you stun with Luchador Bane, often it's good to wait a moment before doing special 1. What that does is it eats up just enough of the clock so that if you need to tag him out quickly after doing special 1, let's say Rebirth Raven is coming in and tags in and steals his power. The cooldown clock has completely finished, and you can tag him out fast enough to avoid taking any damage. If he doesn't stun, just do a special 1 anyways. Hawkgirl's passive means you can tag Bane out almost immediately after. Batgirl's special 1 buys you time, and you've basically gotten her ready so that her next tag in is ready to strip off all the gears of her opponent if you need it. And hopefully we'll have a chance to see that in one of the fights. If he stuns but doesn't crit, you can either finish the opponent off with a second special 1 or swap out for Batgirl Prime. So there's certain specific scenarios that come up that are a little bit more interesting, that make it a little bit harder. And you want to plan ahead for that, right? So let's say the opponent starts with Astro Harness. You tag in Batgirl instead. It uses up their first invulnerability, and she's primed now so that her next tag in, she's ready to strip off all the gears. And Luchador Bane will tag back in just as the invulnerability finishes and can one-hit KO the opponent. Yeah, that's nothing special. Not particularly hard there. The other thing is, if Killing Joke Joker's in the opponent's first slot, don't start with Bane. Start with tagging in Batgirl. Special 1 will often knock him out. And this might be a little bit... I think this is the fight, yeah, with Astro Harness and Special 1. So this is we're going to demonstrate why it's so handy to tag in Batgirl first. So let's see. What were we talking about? Killing Joke Joker we talked about. So she has a revive. Leave her in after knocking out Killing Joke Joker to eat a super. And Yeah, it basically you get the full benefit Necron Scythe when you're facing Killing Joke Joker, and you don't have to waste time waiting for Killing Joke Joker to tag out. Slightly riskier would be to tag in Luchador Bane. Instead of leaving Batgirl to eat the power, you tag in Luchador Bane right away to stun the next opponent who has 3 bars of power. If you stun, no problem. But if you don't stun, you can still sometimes be quick enough to still do your special. And in this case, a special 2 is probably safer to make sure you knock out the opponent. And then it buys you a little bit of time if the special, carries over in the next one. We've already talked about Rebirth Raven as a special case. She's there as not the first opponent. The pause after Luchador Bane stuns is enough. Maybe Raven has taken enough splash damage that just Batgirl tagging it in knocks her out. And if not, there's still a good chance that Batgirl Special 1 is enough to knock out Raven, because Luchador Bane, his splash has softened up Raven and made her taking off a bunch of her health. Other things you want to consider, especially with a tag-in team like this, are tag-in hazards. And I include, say, who we got here? There's Arkham Harley Quinn. So let's just interrupt and just follow this, because this is going to be one of the interesting things. So you got to be careful, because if she's there and she's going to be triggered, just block. And you can still do your strategy with Luchador Bane, because as long as she doesn't knock you out with her passive, the stun lasts long enough that you can still knock out the opponent. So we take it up, and we're lucky. There's no trigger. But because we're knocking out Joker, she's going to come in with 3 bars of power. And the problem is, she's got Astro Harness. So we're just going to buy some time with Batgirl, because Astro Harness, we can't break through that. We can't do anything about that. Hopefully and perfect, buys us enough time. We almost got away with that. So she did her super before we could tag in Luchador Bane to stun her. But the good thing is, and she survived that still. The good thing is, our main offensive weapon, Luchador Bane, is going to be to come in. She's used up all her power, and there's going to be no problem with that. Okay. So the biggest surprise there was that she survived the super. The other tag-in hazard would be Gaslight Batman. So with Gaslight Batman, Luchador Bane will never stun. So a lot of times what you do is you buy a little bit of time with Hawkgirl, right? You leave your tank in at the beginning. It's a lot less effective to try to use Bane, because without the stun, he doesn't do nearly as much damage. He still has boosted special 1 damage, and it still does splash. But Batgirl's not as good, because her tag-in she loses the bar of power from Master's Death card. And that was a bit of a problem, because there was no stun. In Justice 2 Superman's tag-in power was too fast for us to tag out. And that's an example of where you'd see the value of waiting a moment after stunning, if you stun in this fight, where we didn't stun, because Bane was stuck there eating a special 1, because Superman had bar power anyways. And we've seen a few examples of this. If the opponent revives, or has just enough health, or there's reduced damage on our special so that they survive our Luchador Bane special 1, you can either repeat it. You could use Batgirl to finish off the revive. The advantage of Batgirl is that it will basically power up her Necron Scythe and give her the revive, so she can be a meat shield. But a lot of times it's not necessary. And sometimes you just have to improvise. And because Hawkgirl, her passive lets you tag in and out so fast, it's really easy to waste time if something really unexpected happens. And because both Luchador Bane and Batgirl are generating almost always at least a bar of power, you can just do that almost indefinitely. And Batgirl is interesting too, right? You can play her differently depending on whether you're just buying time, in which case you wait for Master's Death card to give you all the power first, or whether you're knocking out, so you want to time her special 1 to be unblocked, or if you're shattering gears, then you want to hit special 1 as fast as you can, immediately as soon as you tag in, to strip all the gears. So if you can see Batman Ninja Catwoman on the other team, and she's not in first slot, and she's got Astro Harness, you start the fight with Batgirl. That primes her gear breaking, so that when she tags in later against Batman Ninja Catwoman, do a special one, strip her of all the gears. She no longer has Batman Ninja Catwoman no longer has Astro Harness, and then the fight becomes a lot easier. If you're facing Red Sun Green Lantern team that has no stun and no crit, I mean, I'll admit that our Luchador Bane team is weakest against them because we lose all our crit chance and crit damage enhancements. And what you can do is just repeatedly alternate Luchador Bane and Hawkgirl. Hawkgirl's passive will trap the first slot card so that you eventually do enough damage to knock them out without someone else tagging in. And you soften up the teammates with Bane's splash damage so that by the time they tag in, they have very little health. Oh, and those fights went a little bit faster than I expected. Didn't go over everything yet. So other special considerations. Quake Engine negates the benefit of Hawkgirl's passive. If you get a stun and crit with Luchador Bane's tag in, you're fine. If you miss either, then you need to block or do another special one to buy yourself enough time to tag in someone else. Sometimes you need to do both. It's that bad. Better is Batgirl only because she can do some damage while she's there. Brandish Ninjato is a particularly interesting problem. If it's on the opponent in first slot, you'll probably still knock them out. The other team members will just have most of their health. So it's not a big deal. You just have to just hit everybody else a little bit harder. That's really it. You lose a bit of splash damage, it's not a big deal. If the Ninjato's on someone else, though, Bane's splash damage basically guarantees that whoever's tagging in will come in with 3 bars of power. Then you need to fall back on traditional strategies to avoid a super. So you can maybe let Hawkgirl eat it. She's your tank. She's got very little offensive potential, so losing her hurts you the least. You could prime Batgirl's Scythe by having her knock someone out first so that she can be the meat shield to eat the super from whoever's holding Brandish Ninjato. Or use a multi-hit special, in this case Luchador Bane Special 2, so they can't immediately do super on tag-in, and hope that you can hit them again with Luchador Bane or tag-in Batgirl to knock them out. And we saw an example sort of that, right? It wasn't Ninjato, but it was Arkham Knight Harley Quinn who had 3 bars of power because we knocked out her Joker teammate. And that's it. So hopefully we'll be back next week with our Q&A. And in the meantime, I want to say a big thank you to our supporters, our patrons on Patreon, and that would be Consul Peasant and Edwoon, supporting us at the top tier, Last Word, Sinemac, Mohammed Albshaiti at the Your Message Here tier, Shawn Farrell, Daniel Simonson, Aaron Maule, Michael DeVries, Brandon C., Irvin Ruiz, and Eddydoo at the credited level, and Chris Wolff, Scarlet Dani, Awesomegamer 2 for 1, Pavu RS, Gavin Mallott, and Isfar E at the gratitude level. And thank you all for watching. We'll see you next time. Komoda.